We've got some more maps further on when we're talking, some more detailed maps. Charts. Sorry, they're charts. This is a navigator's place, isn't it? They're charts. Okay, well, thank you very much, and thank you, Basil, for setting this up and getting us going. Oh, yes, okay. This business when you retire and go cruising, it's sort of a bit like the little boy talking to his dad, and he says, "Daddy, when I grow up, I want to be a yachtsman." And Daddy says, "Well, you better make up your mind, because you can't do both." Okay, so we got back to Trinidad and started putting the boat back together, anti-fouling and all sorts of things like that. And believe it or not, I'd been stored for several months in the four months in the tropics. Everything went very well, except for a little bloodletting with 10 stitches and a big mess on the deck, and a lot of radio messages from our fellow people in the marina all around the port, which is a little embarrassing. Then a bit of a rush to hospital and things. But the important thing was, the generator was fine. It didn't get hurt at all. So that's what really mattered. Just don't tilt at windmills. I was actually right up on the top, and I just finished bending the mainsail, and I was thinking, I better go and do this, you're doing about 10 things at once. And I knew that the generator was a very light breeze, and the generator was just turning occasionally a little bit. And I just started thinking about the next job, and I just sort of stuck my head up and boom, boom, and 2 big gashes right across here. So it was just as easy as that. And if it had been turning very fast, I might have damaged the blades. But we did a bit of sightseeing there and went through sort of dismal swamps with snakes and other wildlife in the jungle. This is in Trinidad. It's very hot there, very hot and humid. And that's actually, in the evening, the scarlet ibis, which is the wonderful big birds. They turn the sky red, and they turn the forest. It turns into green to big patches of red. They're absolutely fabulous. Those scarlet ibis. Okay, and then we headed a bit north from Trinidad, which is right down on the Venezuelan coast. Went a bit further north up to Grenada, and onto a little island north of there, where they do a lot of wooden boat building. For the Caribbean, a place called Carriacou, that's right, yes, yeah. And Carriacou, and they do it all outside, and you can see the sort of houses they have and that sort of thing, but that's the boat yard, and we went and had a look, and I thought the boat building was quite a reasonable standard in comparison to a lot of the other things there. There are so many islands in the Caribbean, wonderful cruising, you could be there forever. That's Marigot Bay at St. Lucia, a little further north. It once was a wonderful inside bay here that you could anchor at. That got filled up with moorings, which they charged the earth for, and marinas. And then you could anchor outside. Now, apart from the channel, you can't actually anchor anywhere out there. They put moorings everywhere, and it's a sort of a free-for-all, and anybody who lives there can just go and put out moorings and then chase you away. But further north along the island, there's a place called Rodney Bay, and Admiral Rodney was there. He was a few years senior to Nelson, and he was one of the great pirates of the Caribbean, but because he was from Britain and he was called an admiral, he got away with it. Yeah, somewhere inside there with the bananas and the other fruit and things, there's a little man. He's now got a Kiwi flag to add to his collection, and that's sort of like the West Indies, where cows roam the streets at Dominica, and it's all very, very tropical and islandish. We hopped in a van with a guide and some other yachtsmen, and we went cruising up through the bush and things all around the place. Tried bootleg spirit, which had a big kick. Picked cashew nuts off trees and roasted them, and trekked up a river to a mighty waterfall, and had a lunch with a Rastafarian family in the bush. All of those exciting sort of things that you do when you go up there. Our guide was a gentleman. and he sort of made sure that nobody tripped over the rocks that you couldn't see in the stream. But some of the time we're up to our waists and even deeper in water. And then there was this wonderful waterfall called, appropriately, the Victoria Falls. And you can see the sizes of us swimming there in the bottom. It was a pretty impressive waterfall, very nice indeed, actually, and beautiful warm water. The Saints, the Battle of the Saints, which Rodney won, and that got him out of trouble. He was going to end up in court, but because he won the Battle of the Saints, they actually let him off from going to court where he was being sued, and they actually gave him a peerage as well. And so this is the Saints, still part of French territory in the Caribbean, and one of the nicest places you could anchor. Quite strong tides through there. Guadeloupe, French again. Typical sort of colours and vibrant colours in the Caribbean. Lovely, lovely, friendly people, and especially if you speak French. Nelson's Dockyard, yes, Antigua. And that's right at the northern end of the West Indies, where it sort of swings over to the where we could turn a bit towards to the port and head towards America a bit. Nelson's Dockyard, yeah, Nelson was about 25 or 26 when they sent him as an administrator there, and they couldn't wait to get rid of him. He'd been sent over there because America had just become independent, and he was to enforce the Navy Act, which meant that the people who lived in Antigua, British colony, could not trade with these upstart Americans that had just sort of got independent. You know, they were really colonists, and they shouldn't have been independent. You know, in any case, the governor there was turning a blind eye to all this trade with this new nation, and he got told to go and sort it out. Well, he spent 3 years there. He called it an infernal hole that he hated, and the people there couldn't wait to get rid of him as well. So it wasn't one of his better things. He was far better off at sea, where he actually did some pretty good things, I think. However, being Nelson, because he's there, it's got to be Nelson's Dockyard and all about Nelson and everything else, even if it was a bit of a disaster. Antigua again, wonderful island, wonderful cruising, lovely place. Does anybody want to move so that they can see better? Or I'm in the way? Okay. In any case, and that's private dock there, thanks to our friends who put us on to the right people. And all around Antigua, there's wonderful anchorages, and then, of course, you've got the super yacht thing there, where there are just dozens and dozens of mega yachts and so on. But it's quite a big island with lots and lots of places that you can go that are very quiet as well. It's on our list to go back to. That's the New Zealand flag.
So it's not like your standard is down the back?
No, we fly it from the mizzen because we've got a boom in the way, then we can't put a thing.
Oh,
so you either fly your national flag. But if you look hard there, there is a little flag there that is the courtesy flag of Antigua.
So the reason it's not so high?
It gets it out of the way, and it's just one of those. So long as it's right aft. And there is one actual rule in one of the yacht clubs we belong to, that you should not fly your own ensign inferior to the courtesy flag, which is an interesting little thing in the book, because most people, as you rightly say, have it down here, but we've got a dingy davits and all sorts of things, and it just makes it's just easier to hoist it up there. Yeah, okay. Thanks, okay. Now, Mr. Lidgood, would you like to deal with this fellow over here? Yes. From Antigua, we went. There's a lot of places up there that you can go to, lots and lots of islands. But we went across to a little island called Saba that most people haven't heard of. But it's about the size of a little barrier. It's an independent nation now. And we had to use moorings because there's no anchorage there. And it was, by the time we got ashore through the surf and things, we were absolutely drenched. And went to the customs guy, went to the immigration policeman who welcomed us there. And stamped us in and out at the same time. He said, "Oh, yeah, you don't have to come back to the office here. Stamp, 2 stamps in the passport." Now, by the way, the customs guy's not here. He's gone to the little airfield, and he's taken all the damn forms with him. So, if he's here when you come back, you can see him, but don't bother. And I'm really angry with him because he's taken the key to the air conditioner. And that was all he was actually interested in. So, in any case, this is a thing called the road that couldn't be built. Now, Saba used to be Dutch, and they got Dutch engineers out there. You'd have thought they would get Norwegian engineers, wouldn't you? But they got Dutch engineers who looked at it and said, "Well, it's not flat, so you can't build a road." So they said, "Well, we want a road, and because otherwise you had to go up 1,000 feet before you could get anywhere. And there's 1,000 feet of stone steps carved into the side of the hill there that you used to have to go up to visit customs. You wouldn't want to leave any papers behind, would you? But in any case, they've now got a little landing down the bottom where they can get a small ferry in and out, and it was okay for the dinghy. And so in any case, they wanted the road to go up to where the village was or the town was. And so one of the locals said, "Well, I know a bit about engineering. I'll go to engineering school." So he went off to engineering school, came back 3 years later, an expert, and built the road. And this is the road that couldn't be built. And that's the sign on it, the road that couldn't be built. They've got an airport there too, which is not much longer than a cricket pitch. But in any case, the Dutch engineers also said, "Oh, you couldn't build an airfield here." So they went out and built it anyway. And then there is actually one other road on the island down the other end, and that's the road that is officially named the road that shouldn't have been built. There's no speed limit there, but nobody uses anything other than first and second gear anyway. That's from Windward Side. We're now up at Windward Side looking down to this town here, which is the capital, and it's 1,000 feet above sea level, and the capital is called the Bottom. Here is where they have 600 medical students at a medical school, a full medical school supported by Holland. The rest of the folks live over here, and there is a population of 800 plus the 600 that bring in a little bit of money. Of course, with only 800 potential patients, they do run out of things to do, and so they go off to some of the other islands for some of their clinical stuff. But they end up after 5 years with a medical degree. We headed back down the hill in the taxi, and a very civilised place. You can have red and white for your house and nothing else. And we were going on the way back to the boat, and we came across another boat that was out on a mooring, and we're talking about a 3-mile trip in the dinghy. Came across this person waving a paddle in the air, and she was a solo French sailor on this other yacht that was out there, and she was paddling mightily with one paddle. The second oar that she had was broken, and she was losing it against about a 20-knot breeze. And so she was quite pleased to see us come along, actually. It can get a little bit hairy at times if you're not too prepared. Moved on from there, across, had a nice sail across to the Virgin Islands. And this is Virgin Gorda in the British Virgin Islands. Lovely place, but it is quite crowded, especially up the other end of this very big bay, this very big harbour, which has got anchorages all round it in places. And up at the other end is the Bitter End Yacht Club, which is right in the middle of everything. So, but it's been found by people, but there's still plenty of places to go there. And indeed, I think the Virgin Islands are one of the world's best cruising areas that I've ever come across. This is called the Baths, and it's an area where there's a lot of grotto. You can see a whole lot of boats anchored up there, mainly charter catamarans and charter boats, and it's a beautifully clear water, wonderful for snorkeling, very pretty place indeed. Popular, but with quite a lot of area, lots of islands, lots of anchorages. You can find a place away from others, so that's very nice. Yeah. I wouldn't be recommending that, but it's beautifully clear and very nice. It was okay. We have a new spinnaker. Well, it's an old spinnaker actually, but it's a new one. The old one as some of you here remember sailing it. It was red, white and blue, and it was 2.2 ounce, and I could pick it up and just tear it apart, and it did that. So we left it in Trinidad, dawning through rubbish tins, and picked up this Janica here in New Zealand and did a little bit of work on it, and it's worked out very nicely, and it's a little bit easier for us to handle with just the two of us, and that's just sailing through the Virgin Islands there with our new pretty pink spinnaker. Anchorage in US Virgin Islands. Why there's a border between the two, okay, I have no idea, but in any case, it's an area, as you can see, there's a few boats there, but here in US St. John's, there's basically no anchoring there. There's plenty of places you can moor, $10 a night or something for a mooring, and they've had too many boats in there damaging coral, so what they've done is they put these big screws into the seabed as moorings, and of course they've tested them to 15 tons or something, and you just pick up one of those, and there's basically an honesty box in the corner of the bay that you go over in your dinghy and put your money in. And so it's a pretty good system. It protects the coral and protects the seabed, and there's plenty of places to go like that. Yes, you do. Yes, yeah. We entered US there, and but there's ferry boats that run across, because it's only about 3 miles between the two, and there's people going backwards and forwards all the time.